call the July 3rd, 2023 Bank Services Committee to order. Okay. This agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the discussion of the Grant Street drainage project to just before the audit.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Get through that or just approve
I'll make a motion to approve
with said.
that change.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Public comments. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, make the supervisor report.
Let's start over the jail courthouse. 3 weeks ago, I'm trying to think exactly when I have it written down here, but it had a leak in the jail on an 1.5-inch ball valve behind the jail cells. And I had to call someone in. It was all on 1.5-inch pressed copper that was done by Precision Piping when they did all those updates back there in Jason's. TD from Weber's came and cut out that section for me, put a ball valve in, and just soldered it back in. It's good to go now. As per request of the sheriff, a year ago, I was asked to get a bid on having a deep cleaning done in the jail, all the cells and catwalk areas. This comes, quote unquote, highly recommended by the state inspector that it might be a wise idea to have that done annually. Well, fast forward 1 year, it's a year later and it hasn't been done. And because I was never told to pull the trigger on it. And I was asked again now if we still have that bid sheet and whatever, and so I have it on the phone with ServPro. So here in the next month or so, we're probably gonna do that, have them come in. It would be an ideal time because population is extremely low in the jail right now, like lower than it's been since I've worked here. It's like down to like 11 inmates or something. Usually we're up in 20s, close to 30. Something else worth noting that occurred to me, whenever we get a thunderstorm, like ever, didn't matter if there was a whole bunch of lightning or a small amount, I would always need to reset the chiller. And the power would flash in the courthouse and jail just enough to kick the generator on, even though it was like 5 seconds or something. I'd get a call, middle of the night and have to go in and go down to my computer and reset, turn the chiller back on and set it back on auto. This would happen even with the old chiller, the old train, where I'd have to do a hard reset on the unit itself. Well, a year ago spring, Ameren showed up. I was out in the maintenance shed one day and they show up with vehicles and bucket truck and stuff and asked them what they're doing. And they said, we've been having some arcing and power flashing on one of these poles back here. Now, how they know that, how they detect that, is beyond me. But the farthest pole back in the corner of that lot, they went back there and they worked up on there for 6 hours, did some connection work, and it's never happened since. So I don't know, whatever was going on back there must have been just enough, because I've never in any thunderstorms had to reset anything. The generator doesn't kick on unnecessarily, so it occurred to me here about 2 months ago. I was like, that might be worth noting, passing that on. It's something that's kind of interesting. Some good news. Let's move along to animal control real quick. Got all the bushes trimmed up over there. I only had to mow one time this month. I did spray all that gravel parking lot with some ground clear. It's growing some hardy weeds. All the heating and cooling now is up to snuff over there. The mini split is in and operating. So all the HVAC is currently, it's good to go. It's a good month over here at the administrative center. Nothing really major to report. The time's been available. I've been doing some trimming of the low-hanging tree branches to help out our mower people a little bit and taking it out and dumping it at the highway department. There's a lot of inspections coming due in the next month or so. The fire alarm system over here needs inspected and recertified. Same thing in the jail. Backflow preventers in all 3 buildings are due in July. I need to get on the horn with fire marshal because some of my boilers at the jail and courthouse are due for recertification. I've been on the phone with a gentleman from Freehill Asphalt, and we're going to get together in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, and to take a look at all of our parking lots with the budget hearings coming up to kind of get a plan on seeing what needs done when, as far as cracks or resealing. I know we're sitting pretty good right now, but we'd like to get a plan moving ahead the next couple of years and seeing what his thoughts are. We're probably going to want to reseal that north lot of the courthouse that just got new asphalt a year ago. Usually in the spring, that south lot opens up with a bunch of cracks, and this year it did not. I know it was a very mild winter, but that south lot's still sitting pretty good. And over here as well, I don't know what he will recommend as far as resealing. I don't know. I'll find out, and I'll pass that on to you guys. That's all I've got here.
I see there's a tree down in the front yard of the courthouse. That's not one of the new ones.
It is not. That one's
pear
been,
tree.
yeah, that one's been there. It's funny too, I made the comment to my daughter, we were on the front porch watching it storm. I was like, well, I wonder what'll go down to the county, because every time it storms, there's a tree that gets blown up or something. And sure enough, I drive by and there's a tree laying on its side. But I'll cut that one up myself. It's probably not gonna happen today, but we'll get it this week.
How much is the bid with Servpro to, deep clean the jail? Do you have that in front of you?
My stupid butt didn't bring it here. It's sitting in the maintenance shed, but it was between 2 and 3.
1,000?
Yeah.
They would just do the cells.
They do the cells, all the catwalks. This is from like ceiling to floor, like everything. The bars, the
Clean it, sanitize it, that
Mhm.
kind of thing.
and like I said, this comes from state inspector.
Yeah,
Which I guess this is becoming commonplace with smaller jails and whatnot. And
I could see that needing done.
Probably some clothing.
yes, and that's like Jill just said. Like since COVID, this has become that's kind of when all this popped up. So yeah.
Any other questions?
Where are we at with the painting? Is it?
Yeah, that was approved last month, and I've spoken with them, and they said it would most likely be a late summer, early fall project. And I said, well, so just make sure we get it this year. He goes, oh no, absolutely, we'll, because they have been flying through work with the lack of rain. He's told me, and yeah, he says so. We're looking at probably August, September, I would guess. I will reach out to him monthly just to kind of poke and prod a little bit and find out where we are, but it's not gonna be any time, it won't be in July, I know that.
How's your budget doing?
Very well. Just underlined them here. My service contracts is sitting at 67%. Maintenance and repair over here is almost 60% remaining. Halfway through the year. Household supplies are under 50%. So that's fine. I spent a lot on household supplies this month. I stocked up on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I saw that. I did look at them online and I
Yeah.
thought, you must be stockpiling things.
Yeah, I've got I store all that in the maintenance shed, and yeah, I've got quite a stockpile going there now. That should be set for a while. I would suspect that next time we have our management meeting, those will be a couple $100. So, maintenance and repair with courthouse and jail, I'm still sitting at 65%. Yeah, seems pretty average for this time of year.
And what are our major things, since budget hearings will be later this month, what are we looking at here that you're gonna ask for, or do you not know yet?
I don't know, and I hate to just blurt this out, but off the top of my head, I'm not looking at anything major.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the parking lots might be the biggest thing. I mean, we've done so much in the past 4 or 5 years as far as updating things with, from the chiller to everything. And I think right now, knock on wood, we're sitting pretty good with major projects. So, I mean, I'm not looking to, if anything, it's gonna be some small stuff.
Okay.
I need to get together with Sheriff. I spoke with him on Friday and, because what those are due in just a couple weeks, the worksheets. So we're gonna get together probably next week sometime and go over some things. We'll pass that on to you guys.
All right. We will go on to county farm management issues, update on tiling project.
I spoke with Bo from Hendricks and just to kind of get an update, and he said it was completed, so, but we haven't received the bill yet, have we? So, but he will be including tile maps with the bill, so
Yay.
that's good. I guess he's content with getting it paid next month.
Now, let's talk about when we get those tile maps, where should they be stored? Do we have a county farm tile map file someplace in the building? You know, I would not like to see them go over to the courthouse and end up in the pile that you had to dig through. I'd like to at some point begin a record keeping, like right now, keeping process where we can go to an office, open a file drawer and go, oh, farm tile maps.
Is there a place in your office where that can be kept?
Or does that need to go to the clerk's office?
Okay.
And if
And
we,
actually, I wouldn't mind seeing it in that pile over there and here.
well, that's okay with me too. Yeah, that's okay, yeah,
That way it's in more than one place.
sure. But I'm guessing there are other farm documents. We know there's that Clifton Trust, the copy of the will and everything. So in my opinion, there should be a farm drawer, you know, and it should all be together. So let us from here forward.
There's just a stack of books about 2 feet thick, and I really think we need to maybe get it organized a little bit, maybe buy a deep file cabinet, you know, that you can lay the books in flat, or kind of like what Mark has on some of these, you know what I mean?
Do we know if any of that stuff has been digitalized at this point?
Not that I'm aware of.
You know, that's a question we should ask Brian about where those records are in the process, because they should be. So Amanda, next month, can you bring us the information on where it's at? And where, when the next management committee goes looking, they'll be able to readily put their hands on that?
That way we can put it in the minutes and then
Yeah.
anybody looking can look through the minutes and say, it was said it's put here.
Right. And to have a second copy made to put at the courthouse with the other records.
At the courthouse?
Well, where John found so John specifically, where would that be?
It's kind of down in the basement by the ESDA office there. There's a locked room in there.
You mean the IEMA office?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
okay,
Wrong acronym.
all right. I
Way
thought
too
I knew
many.
what you meant.
Any other farm management things we need to talk about?
Well, it didn't look to me, and I'm not probably a good judge of this, like they tore it up, the crops up too much getting it done. It looked like it was a pretty neat job, was it?
Yeah,
In your
I-
opinion?
I think they did as minimal as they could do.
Well, it was gonna cost them the more they did.
Right, so it was up to.
Behooves them to.
Right. And I asked Bo if, you know, Joda and them are happy or content with what they said it was, so. They're good to go, so I can assume that it'll be some sort of adjustment, for crops damaged that we may not see, so. Just wait for Bill, I guess.
Long term, are there any other issues you've seen on the farms?
Just this one that ties in with the Grant Street project, over here with the busted tile on the corner, directly south of the courthouse in the corner.
How much would that take to fix that? Because that we could fix. We could fix a busted tile.
Well, the whole Grant Street project is a maintenance issue, if you ask me, because there are several other issues that are, places that are plugged, and you can walk through the courthouse there, lawn, and see all the little sinkholes in the yard, you know. So I think that's maybe our next project. Other than that, I'm not aware.
Speaking of project, I know we moved it further on. Do you have an idea when he's gonna make it here?
Well, I told him maybe, I spoke to him about 8:30, so hopefully he'll be here before 10.
Where it's going, we're gonna be.
On the way out, huh?
So do you think there are other tile problems? Cause I've complained ever since I've been here about that. And I came by today and you know, what kind of drought we just came off of, and if we got 2 inches of rain and there's water standing down there in that muck hole, that's what I call it, in the southwest corner.
Oh, by Porter Avenue.
Yeah, well, it's right in the corner of the field.
Yeah. It's broken there.
It is?
Yeah, so that's what needs to be looked at next, you know. I think this Grant Street project, we can fix all that, if and when we do that. Because we can tie that into that Porter Avenue drain, which we always haven't had before, so that's a good thing. You don't have an outlet, you don't have much. So.
We looked at this probably 2 management chairmen ago, and it's been like that ever since I've been here, and it just bugs me to death that we can't fix a broken tile or figure out why that mess is there.
Yeah. It did farm around the drain, like as per my request.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, instead of planting a row of corn over the top of it.
No, nothing else on that. We'll go to discussion on animal control building and morgue. You said you pretty much got the animal control building up and going good.
Yeah. We do have a bid for the fence.
Yes.
Okay.
That's.
I'll write that sheet in front of me, I don't know what the schedule is. Everything's, yeah, we're sitting pretty good over there at animal control, I think.
Yeah, I just got the bill from Weber for the air conditioner repairs, and it was, 7,200, I believe, which was less than what we were expecting, so. And that's coming out of the remaining ARPA funds that were unused.
And that was for both projects, that was for the condenser
And then these ones.
and the mini split. So,
Did they just repair them or did they replace
replaced.
both?
That's been taken care of. That invoice and that claim will actually go to finance, because I got it late. So it'll go to finance.
All right. Is there plans in the future to have a vet available to us there?
If we can find one.
Right.
Yes, please.
Nobody wants
Know of
to do
anybody
that.
that would like to be a vet, they can have it back.
Have we contacted like Purdue and U of I and their vet schools and made it known that this county's in need of a vet? And is there someone who's gonna
I've
graduate?
reached out
You
to
have?
a person, well, they haven't got back with me. I talked to their mother.
Okay. Very efficient. Well, I was just wondering if we went directly to, did a letter on our letterhead to the vet schools, just to make it known that,
The one that I talked to is between her third and fourth year, and right now is doing rotations. I think they said she was down in Texas right now. Would be doing large animal as well as others. And the family would love her to come back to Iroquois County, so
well,
whether that's in her plans or not, we haven't found out yet.
And correct me if I'm wrong, John, you've contacted the University of Illinois about our need for a vet. It's been a while, but I thought you had told me that you had done that.
It's not updated.
It's not updated.
what do you mean it's not updated, Jim?
I haven't talked to him recently.
Well, I don't think
The
it can.
problem though largely centers on the fact that the graduates, many of those schools are looking at a minimum salary of $150,000 a year starting. Plus a long list of benefits that far exceed anything that we are familiar with in this county. They get a lot of vacation, a lot of sick time, and they work, I think, 3 days a week, and on and on it goes.
Well,
They have jobs waiting for them. There's a long list of
I know.
larger cities and larger places that are trying to hire these students. And so it's very difficult to find somebody that's willing to start out maybe for most half that earnings and so forth. But
Well,
as Lyle was pointed out, there's a possibility for this one student from Danforth, if she's interested in staying in the county, which I've been led to believe is the case, maybe in another year or two, we'll be able to get something going there. You have to remember also that that person is not gonna be hired by the county.
Well, that's what my comment was just gonna be when you're talking about salary and benefits. Ideally, we wouldn't want them to be an employee, we'd want them to be self-employed and.
but if they also took over the animal control position, that would be a salary position. You know,
Right,
it would be a way to supplement them getting started.
right, but on a part-time basis, not a full-time employee.
And somebody looking at going into large animal isn't gonna go to Kankakee so much, or Champaign.
Well, I think the same.
The large animal population in Iroquois County is a lot less than it used to be.
Yeah, but you got two beds where you used to have a lot more than that.
He sold us last.
Yeah.
I have to utilize a vet from Gibson City for my animals.
You don't have.
My best option.
The sale barn in Milford always has to have a vet on site, and I think Piper City, I think that's the vet that comes down there, I think so, from Piper City. Used to be Dr. Fennell. And I don't know. Schley. So I don't think there are any other sale barns operating in the county, are there? No, that's it. That's the only one left.
Or
I would like to know how many cows there are in there, but beef.
As far as the mortgage is concerned, I've continued to pursue what I consider to be our best option of adding on to the maintenance shed. A couple of weeks ago, I met with Eric Brandt, who's the zoning person for the city. As you know, we are within the city limits, and so subject to their ordinances and so forth. A couple things that I found out is interesting, that the land over there that encompasses the maintenance shed and part of the jail is in the floodplain. On the other hand, before you get too negative, Donna. There's more to the story.
I know, I drove over there and took a good long look, John.
Well, please let me finish the
You,
story.
by all means.
When you look at the floodplain map, and when you look and measure what is in the floodplain and what isn't, you find that the land immediately to the east of that maintenance shed, which is a lot lower, is not in the floodplain. That seems rather strange, but that's the way the maps are drawn. Further to that end, all the homes on Porter Avenue are also in the floodplain. They've never had any water, and so all of them have hired a surveyor to come in and measure the actual land elevation. And they've been able to get what's called a letter of amendment, which excludes them from having to have flood insurance. And when my conversations with Mr. Brandt, that appears to be the best avenue for us to pursue, is to have a surveyor come over there. Because he has a map of the city, Eric does. And he's got a little pointer that he can go and point anywhere on that map, and it tells him what the exact elevation is right at that point. And when he points on the place where we're talking about, it's above the flood elevation. But it's still on the map in the floodplain. So how it got that way, I can't explain it to you. And how come the land right to the east, which is lower, is not in the floodplain, nobody can explain that. So I think our best, there's several ways that this could be approached. One is that the we can go to the city council in Watsika, and they could give us a waiver or whatever to build something there. You don't have to be concerned about flood insurance, because we're not gonna take a mortgage or anything like that out. But obviously, the issue of whether it's in a floodplain or not, to me, whether we ultimately build on that location or not, I think that's probably an issue that we should really address and get clarified, because it may have ramifications in the future that would be significant. But nevertheless, in order to get that done, we have to hire a surveyor, which will cost about $1,000 to come and survey the land and certify the elevation, and then what's called a letter of map amendment can be obtained, and that takes care of the floodplain issue.
Is it Porter and then is Lincoln over there? Is that other street Lincoln?
Porter Avenue is the next street south of Lincoln.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Does
That's where,
Lincoln,
like John was referring to, for our farmland, where they go.
but I wasn't sure. I was sure about Porter, I wasn't sure. So does Lincoln get any flooding?
Not that I know of.
Well, is there a broken tile over there too? When I drove over there, there's a patch where, things have grown up and there's a flag in it. And I admit I didn't trump out there to look. Is there a broken tile there or something?
On the south lot of the,
Yeah, I drove by your maintenance shed and then I drove on by the sheriff's and right out there.
oh, no,
What is that out there?
you mean
Is that
east of the jail?
swale? East of the
Okay, I'm
jail.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple things going on there. Yeah, there's most likely a broken down tile there, but then also there's a line that discharges there there's some tile that is put all the way around the courthouse building, goes into a couple manholes. One of them goes south and one of them discharges into that field. And that is why there's continuously that small area where there's tall grasses and whatnot. It just kind of sits there. It gets discharged out of a manhole and a sump pump, and it, don't know where it's supposed to go in the past, but it sits there.
Not good design, is it?
Those,
What I've done since my conversation with Eric Brandt is I've attempted to contact the crowd surveyors from Cullum, that's who've been recommended for this area. And I to be honest with you, not been successful. I don't know what's going on in their place. I've been told the only way you can get a hold of them is to call them early in the morning, so I've done that and left them a voicemail, but it could be with the holidays and summer, maybe they all taken a vacation for the last week or so, but
Well, they're about the only surveyors in the area. We used them at the law office and the guy
I'm
before
still
him.
frustrated by not being able to
Get a
speak
return
to
call.
somebody else. But I'm gonna continue that. September, I'm sure I'll be able to get a hold of them one way or another pretty soon.
And usually, when you do get a hold of them, it just takes them forever to get here because they're just that booked.
Not that big of a project, so maybe we can get them to squeeze it in somewhere.
Is that the same one I've got?
It might be that we could talk with this people hall and maybe with Robinson Engineering, maybe, because they've been doing, they shot surveys around the courthouse. Maybe they could come back and,
When is that?
oh, I think it's shortly after our last meeting.
Is there a surveyor in Danville? Is his name? Is there a surveyor in Danville?
There's a surveyor down in Paxton, so, we got possibly contact them, just trying to cross the community that's been used here in Lot Secrets. I figured they're
What's
the
the
ones
guy
that are
in-
most familiar with it.
Moore is the guy. What's his name?
There are quite a few utilities that come out of the north side of that maintenance shed.
Well, there's a gas line for the heating, these two gas heaters in the shed that's underground, comes right through there, it's underground underneath it. The pavement as well, which, I don't know, about 8 feet or so from north of the shed, a little bit of an angle into maybe like about 4 feet to where the shed is, small little corner. Well, I'm not sure what we would do with something like that. It might be possible to relocate the line a little bit, maybe.
Is it just water or is it,
It's what?
is it just water then?
Natural gas.
Then there's a big hammer pole there too.
The Ameren pole is 33 or 34 feet north of the shed. We would be probably going maybe 26 feet or so north. So we probably would not have to be involved with anything with the pole, but obviously that's one of the other steps that we have to cross is to get a hold of Ameren and talk to them about everything, because the line that brings the power into the jail and the courthouse runs over the top of the maintenance shed.
Yeah. I saw that.
How that ever came about, well, I don't know. I mean, that line was there before the maintenance shed was built, I'm pretty sure. So whether Cameron is aware of that, gave an easement, I don't know what the circumstances are there, but it's been there for a long time. And I believe you have to be 10 feet below the power line. I think that's rule of thumb or whatever the regulation is.
Yeah.
And I think that where that line is over the maintenance shed, it's probably about 10 feet, is it about that, Chris?
That sounds right.
So, what we would be doing if we're gonna extend it, we would be changing that dimension. I think that we would be extending it. It would be the same building, same dimensions, just go forward, so we should be okay there.
What about, putting like an additional maintenance shed over on this location, over here? Instead of having it over there.
The advantage of going over there would be, should cost us a lot less money. There's already a pavement where you drive right up to, have access. I think the south end of that maintenance shed is ideal for what the corner wants. It's got everything there, right there, an overhead door, bathroom facilities, sink to wash, place for the cooler, storage space, you've got everything you need right there. a matter of compensating the loss of that space for Chris and the maintenance by adding on to the north end.
Well, I would say I'm not against that, but what I am against is putting in a building where there's potential for water. So if we can absolutely rule that out, I'm not opposed. And there's a guy named Hardkey in Danville.
I know Mr. Hurd.
Well, have you reached out to him?
No, I have.
So you got his number?
I say I know him. That's why I've not
I
reached
thought
out
you
to him.
might. I recall where I've heard his name before.
Okay.
In fact, Mr. Harkey has been here in this room to some of the meetings.
I thought he might have been.
I might remember him for that. In any case, I will continue to try and get contact with Rose. Hopefully we can get that done in the next few days. Get that
Have we done any rough figure just to see what it would cost to turn the maintenance shed into a wharf?
Well, as far as the maintenance shed itself is concerned, the only thing that we have talked about doing was putting up some type of a partition or wall to separate that from the rest of the maintenance shed.
We have to put a drop ceiling and viewing room and all
That's all that, everything is there, it's just fine. There's a ceiling in the maintenance shed, it doesn't go all the way up to the roof. You don't see the trusses or anything. So everything, it really, when you go in there and see what we're talking about doing, I mean, it just fits all the criteria.
that, bathrooms.
I had the coroner come over there, we looked at it and said immediately, this is perfect. That's the exact purpose. So I think, again, I think it's our best avenue of that we pursue. On the other hand, we still have as an option over at the hospital. I know Donna's not necessarily in favor of that, but just talked to the director of the hospital this morning, he was right out here in the hallway.
Yeah, we met him.
And he brought that up again, indicating he'd be very willing to cooperate with us if we want to pursue that direction. I explained to him about our first option at the maintenance shed, that if that falls through, that I would be happy to talk to him some more about the hospital. That's where I left it with him. That's what I have.
Well, I guess we'll wait anxiously for your report next month.
But I hope to have something better to report.
Well, what's the next, just getting a hold of the surveyor to find out about
When I
elevations?
get a hold of the surveyor and it looks like what we think we can do and all that is doable, then I'm gonna get together with some of the companies that put up old buildings and see what their ideas and so forth are. Get some ideas about cost. I'm gonna talk to the concrete people at the same time. One of the things that the city wants when you go for a building permit is to have some drawings. I don't feel like that if the company that's gonna put up the barn buildings can supply drawings, I don't see why we have to hire an architect to do something like that, so,
Not again.
you know, I think that's a good way to get around it.
We will move on to open and take action on bids for fence and dog doors on the animal control building. This is Martin Development and Construction. Install chain link fence per layout provided by Director of County Maintenance, approximately 184 linear feet of fence. Fence to have privacy slats, fence to be 6 foot high with 1 gate. Fence protecting AC units to be 4 foot high with gates and no privacy slats, approximately 33 linear feet. The bid does take into account for prevailing wage requirements. This still does not have the doors on
We did that already last month and it was accepted, wasn't it?
it.
No.
No. We sent back because there was no doors on it. So
You
we,
should have put them together when you submitted the bid.
When we wanted the
So that one
complete,
from last month is just null and void now?
so this has no doors on it either.
So you should have put the one that he got from last month for the doors and the concrete work with the fence one together.
Where's that other bid? What happened to it?
I don't know, but it was, we requested it all together.
Oh, good grief.
So,
I think we
Can we,
take no action and ask for a correction.
can we ask them to submit a corrected one for the board meeting?
we can do that. Do you have his number?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that it is all in one spot.
That's the only bid they got. So, let the whole board decide.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I mean, as long as it's within budget, I don't see an issue, but we still have to, we want what we request.
Yeah.
You get him to do this,
Okay.
a daily phone call.
So do you need a motion to take no
You're
action
reading my mind, Doc.
on the
I'll
bid
do my best.
Yeah,
pending presentation of a complete bid at the full board meeting Tuesday? For doors, let's say for doors
Doors
and
and
fence together.
Yeah, we'll reach out to them and see if we can get them to combine those and give it to us for Tuesday.
When you say doors, you mean gates or?
Guillotine doors,
Oh,
like
the
doggy
down.
doors or
Okay.
something like that.
I gotta cut through concrete. Block.
You need a second? I'll second that.
all in favor, all opposed, because we're not spending money.
Alright.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Hopefully we will have that for the full board meeting and get that taken care of so we can get the job done. All right, I have not seen the guy come in yet, so.
I guess I did have kind of one question that I wanted to put to the committee is, do you think we should try to hold Watsika to help us pay for some of this cost on this Grant Street drainage project?
I thought it was gonna be split was what our intention was.
I thought so too. In fact, I thought it was majorly on them with us supplementing, is the impression I had.
I think that's the impression we all have.
It needs to be shared.
Especially, I think, if they want to go around the north side of the subdivision.
You mean the mayor's house?
No, well, yeah, it goes past the mayor's house. but
Yeah.
Around to the north side, it runs back east and west. I feel that they need to have some skin in the game.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That'll be brought up when we do the discussion about the cost.
Okay, well, it's good that I've got, Senate.
Go back in.
I would think that when we identify what the cost of the project is going to be, that may have a lot to do with how it's going to.
But it would be nice to know sooner rather than later so we can get it in the budget for next year.
Right. Well, like I say, he's probably en route, but we'll probably.
We'll move on to the claims and we'll just, as soon as he gets here, that way we can, if we're all done with everything but him, then we can just adjourn as soon as we're done talking.
Well, I know John and I can meet with him too, to see.
We'll just see, because if he's planning on being here for 10, by the time we go through claims and stuff, we'll be real close to that. So, Anybody got any questions on the claims?
Well, yes, we are all kind of wondering what this $100,000 capital improvement transfer is, and I've looked through my notes, and I got a $260,000 set aside from the county farm. And I don't know what I meant by that note, that was on May 1st.
It's budgeted.
Well, what is it?
The capital improvement fund was, it was discussed last budget hearing, said the capital improvement fund was running on the low side. So instead of doing the transfer to the general fund, we had it transferred into the capital improvement fund. So I did that transfer so that when we get ready to go into our next budget hearings, we'll have an idea of what the fund amount is going to be currently with that 100,000. And we should not need to do it again, it was running low for last fiscal year, so instead of, like I said, instead of transferring to the general, it got transferred to the capital improvement fund instead.
Well, I like that it's in the capital improvement fund, what's the balance in the farm account line right
The
now?
farm account, give me 1 second, I'll get it off the
Sure.
balance sheet.
Oh, is it on there? Maybe I could read it myself.
Well, you guys, you don't have the balance sheet, I'll give it to you in just a second. The balance sheets come from the treasurer's office, after she reconciles all the bank reports, but I can give you the updated one here in just a second. The farm account is what you're asking for?
Yeah.
150.
Alright, the county farm fund currently has $170,902 in it.
We really don't wanna get much below that, just as working.
No, but since we had, we normally do the 100,000 to the general, we just did it to the capital improvement fund instead last year, so.
When is the contract up?
For the county farm?
The farm contract, is that another year yet?
Yeah, I believe we're in our second year.
Oh, were there any other questions?
That's what I'm waiting to find out.
I forgot to.
We got another year, it goes through November 1st, 2024.
But we should probably put that on the calendar, we'll probably wanna let that out for bid like what, next month?
Probably.
Usually in the spring.
Maybe even April.
Whichever time is gonna be where we get the most money. So while they're optimistic, probably.
Maybe better do it in March, because if we have a dry or a wet planting season, that might affect their willingness to bid generously.
It's either too dry or too wet.
I know.
Any other questions or comments on the claims?
Well, I guess, yeah, it just runs through my mind. Jill, do you know when we did that, or Amanda, do you know when we let that for bids? It's warm weather when they come in here and we do that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
What month we let that out for bid? It was really warm when we opened those bids, cause I remember talking to, Stephanie in the parking lot, and it was hot out there.
Well, it seems like the last time for some reason it got pushed a little.
Farther later,
Yeah, than normal.
yeah, I think you're right, now that's sort of ringing a bell. I thought she could do that. She's real good at that.
I'm looking.
I think it was due to the taxing. It was paying the taxes issue.
We had a question about that.
Maybe kicking it down the road.
There was a legal question on that, which for this next time coming
Has
up,
been
there's been
clarified.
legislation that's gone through.
And we're good.
We need more money than Peter paid.
My understanding, right,
What's that?
that the legislation did pass that
It did, but there's an organization called the Edgar County Watchdogs that claim it's unconstitutional. I don't know where that's gonna go.
I thought John was making noises.
Thought it was my pacemaker.
You look on their website, you could probably get an update that's better than what I can tell you. I know they're crusading against it. I believe Shelby County has amended their way of doing it. They used to do it the way we did, and they were under attack from those watchdogs for over the course of a couple of years, I believe. Shelby County changed the way they do it. I think they're doing custom farming now. I know Ford County changed their way of doing it. They put two of it at free farming in Ford County, they put two of them in CRP, and they custom farm it.
We had discussion and action on county farm lease bids in July.
That was later than normal.
Yeah.
I think March we should try to do.
I think we should, what, you mean put it out for bid in March or open bids in March?
No, put it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
put,
kind of when things are decided for the fall.
I think March is good. Let's kind of put that on the agenda to put that out for bid in March.
If you wait too long, farmers don't have, are in that mode of, they're in the farming mode.
Right, exactly.
Well, technically, end of March is when you're supposed to give notice on a farm, isn't it?
November.
No, that, yeah, well, it's before,
Of course, I mean,
Usually
this,
on or before the crop is pulled out.
of course, I mean, this is a contract, so they know when the contract ends. So basically, they give it notice. Any other claims, issues, questions, comments, motions?
I make a motion that we accept the claims.
One second.
Bowers,
Yes.
Spence,
Yes.
Crowe,
yes.
Zumwalt,
Yes.
Barons,
Do we have any old business we need to discuss?
Did you get any answers to the wetlands question that extends?
Officially from them, no. That report has not been completed.
But there were none.
What I did find out is it only applies to farmland. So if you cut a section out and say it's no longer farmland, it's part of the courthouse, wetlands doesn't apply
Exists.
anymore.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's,
I can tell you some further information. The United States Supreme Court has decided that it's not a wetland. They changed the definition of what a wetland is.
So far, and I understand that the vote, is that considered bonus?
Yeah.
The bonus is supposed to be they're gonna look at it again, not the Supreme Court, but EPA.
Well, I think the Biden administration is refusing to accept the results of
Correct.
the Supreme Court, which is rude. So,
Who has the final authority?
I would say the Supreme Court.
Needs you.
I guess that's
It's
a
Mexican
$64 billion question or something.
A Mexican stand-up, I like that.
I have a copy of the article that I gained that from, anybody wants to look at it. It was in the end of May when the decision was published.
So if this fellow gets here, presumably I have a note from May 1 that said elevations to come. He was going to come back with elevations for us.
Yes. So, I'll meet with him here probably after the meeting. report next month.
Huh?
I guess I'll report on it next month.
Yeah, I guess if you have any questions. John knows. Any other old business?
If we're done, don't want to preempt anybody.
All in favor?